kind human boy helped a lost alien beggar, then found out who he really was. The city was cold that night. The wind moved through empty streets, carrying dust and the soft hum of broken streetlights. Evan, a young human boy, walked slowly, holding a small bag of leftover food from the diner where he worked after school. He was tired, his shoes were old, and his jacket had more holes than buttons. But even in his poor life, he still smiled when he saw people in need. As he walked past an alley, he heard a strange sound. It wasn't a human voice. It was weak, deep, and echoed like metal rubbing against stone. He stopped, listening carefully. The sound came again, a slow breath, like someone struggling to live. Evan stepped closer, his heart beating fast. There, in the dark corner between two broken walls, sat a figure wrapped in metallic cloth. Its skin had a faint blue glow under the moonlight. It wasn't human. The creature looked old, maybe ancient, with long, silver lines running across its face like cracks on glass. Its eyes were half closed, and its breathing was heavy. The air around it shimmered slightly, as if the space itself bent a little. Evan froze. He had seen aliens before on the news, but never this close. People said aliens were dangerous, that they brought trouble and disease. But this one looked harmless, tired, and lost, like someone who hadn't eaten for days. "Hey, are you okay?" Evan asked quietly. The alien lifted its head slowly. Its voice came out broken and low. "Human, do not come closer." Evan hesitated, looking at the food in his hand. He could turn back and pretend he never saw it. But something inside him said no. He stepped forward and placed the food near the alien's trembling hands. "Here, you need this more than me," he said, his voice kind but nervous. The alien looked at him with strange, glowing eyes. For a moment, it didn't move. Then it reached out slowly, fingers thin like bones. It touched the food gently. When it ate, small sparks of light moved across its body. Evan smiled, watching quietly. "You shouldn't have done that, human," the alien said weakly after eating. Evan frowned. "Why not? You were hungry." The alien stared at him, almost sadly. "There are eyes that see kindness as danger," it whispered. Then its body flickered like a broken hologram, and for 1 second, Evan saw a bright symbol glowing on its chest, a circular pattern of stars. Before he could ask, the alien vanished into thin air. Only the cold wind remained. Evan stood frozen. "Wow, what just happened?" he whispered. He looked down and saw something shining on the ground. A small silver coin, glowing faintly blue. He picked it up, and the moment his fingers touched it, warmth spread through his hand. The coin pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. He put it in his pocket and walked home quickly, his mind racing. At night he couldn't sleep. The sound of the alien's voice echoed in his head. "There are eyes that see kindness as danger." What did that mean? Outside his window, strange lights moved in the sky. At first he thought they were planes. But then he noticed they were too fast, too silent. They were drones, scanning the city with red beams. And then his heart skipped. On one of the drone's holographic screens, he saw a picture. It was the same alien, the same old being he helped. Under the picture were the words, "WANTD, escaped royal prisoner." Evan's eyes widened. Royal prisoner, that alien. He stepped back, his hand touching his pocket where the coin was still warm. What had he just done? Suddenly, a faint whisper filled his room. It was the alien's voice again. "Do not fear, boy, they will come for the coin. Hide it until I return." Evan turned around, searching for the source, but there was no one there. Only his old radio buzzed, flickering with static. He grabbed the coin again, holding it tight. It pulsed once, then went still. A knock came on his door. He froze. Who could it be this late at night? He peeked through the window and saw two tall men in dark coats standing outside. They weren't neighbors, and behind them hovered a government drone, red light blinking, scanning the door. Evan's breath quickened. He turned off the lights and stepped back slowly. The men knocked again, harder this time. "Citizen Evan Miller," one of them called. "We need to ask you about a missing alien seen in this area." Evan didn't move. He looked at the coin, now glowing again, brighter than before. Then the alien's voice whispered once more. "Run, run now." Evan grabbed his small backpack, hid the coin inside, and quietly opened the back window. Cold wind hit his face as he jumped down into the dark alley. He didn't know where he was going. He just knew that his act of kindness had started something much bigger. Something that was now chasing him through the night. And as he ran, the sky above the city filled with silent lights. Drones searching, engines humming. And somewhere far away, a broken alien king watched through the stars, whispering. "The boy has the key." Evan ran through the dark alley. His breath came fast and white in the cold air. Behind him, the faint red glow of the government drone flashed across the walls. Its metallic voice echoed, "Subject detected, human contact confirmed." He didn't look back. He kept running until the city lights faded behind him. At last, he reached the edge of the industrial zone, where old factories slept like giants. He hid behind a broken wall, his chest rising and falling. His heart felt like a hammer. He looked at his hand. It was shaking. And that's when he saw it. On his palm, a faint blue mark was glowing. The same circular symbol that had appeared on the alien's chest. He rubbed it, thinking it was dirt. But it didn't go away. Instead, the mark pulsed softly, like the coin in his pocket. "What is this?" he whispered. The mark responded with a weak light, spreading tiny glowing lines up his wrist. Evan's eyes widened in fear. It didn't hurt, but he could feel something like energy moving under his skin. Then a soft voice echoed inside his mind again. "You touched the royal key, and now it has chosen you." Evan jumped, looking around. The voice was clear, but there was no one there. It was the alien. The same deep voice he had heard before. "How are you talking to me?" he whispered. The voice replied, "Through the link, the coin is not just metal, it is alive, and now part of you." Evan stood silent. He didn't know whether to feel terrified or amazed. "What do you want from me?" he asked. There was a pause. Then the voice said slowly, "To survive, both of us must hide. They will hunt us. They already know your face." Just then, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. Evan turned and saw a drone crash into a building, sparks flying into the night. He heard the metallic sound of boots approaching. Government soldiers, armed and scanning every shadow. He ducked behind the wall again, heart pounding. Their voices came closer. "Thermal scan shows human presence nearby. Check the north side." Evan held his breath. The mark on his hand glowed brighter. Suddenly, the air shimmered around him, and his body started to blur. He looked at himself. He was disappearing. His own outline turned transparent. The alien's voice whispered, "I am helping you, the key hides you, now go." Evan didn't wait. He ran through the ruined factory, invisible to the scanning beams. Every few seconds, the light flickered back, showing him for a split second before hiding him again. When he finally reached the other side, he collapsed behind a rusted container, gasping for air. The mark slowly faded to normal, and he could see himself again. "What was that?" he asked in panic. The voice replied, "A small gift from the coin's memory. It protects the worthy." Evan touched the mark gently. He didn't understand how or why. He only knew one thing: that night had changed him forever. Hours passed. He hid inside an abandoned train carriage, cold and hungry. He tried to rest, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw the alien's face. The old creature's sad eyes, the glow on his chest, the words, "You shouldn't have done that, human." He didn't regret it, but he knew his life would never go back to normal. Just before dawn, he was awakened by a low hum. The coin in his pocket was glowing again. When he held it, it projected a faint hologram in the air. It was a face, the alien's face flickering weakly. The image spoke slowly. "If you are hearing this, it means I am still alive, but not safe." Evan's eyes widened. "You must come to the old tunnels beneath the city. There is something I must show you before they find me again." Then the hologram vanished. Evan stared at the empty air. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't ignore it. Even if he was scared, even if the government wanted him dead. He had to find that alien. He left the train, the morning fog thick around him. The streets were quiet, except for the distant sound of patrolling drones. As he walked toward the city's underground tunnels, he noticed strange posters on walls. Each had his face on it. Below, the text read, "Wanted for alien assistance, dangerous." He stopped. His own picture stared back at him, tired eyes, messy hair. He whispered, "I'm dangerous now." He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. All he did was share food. And now the whole city wanted to catch him. When he reached the old subway entrance, it was sealed with metal bars. But the moment his hand touched the lock, the mark on his palm flashed blue. The bars melted silently, turning to liquid silver. Evan stepped back, shocked. The voice came again, calm but weak. "The mark recognizes my path. It opens what others cannot." He stepped inside the dark tunnel. The air was cold and damp. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing through the silence. The deeper he walked, the stronger the mark glowed, lighting the way ahead. Then he saw something on the wall, strange symbols, carved deep into the stone. They looked ancient, not human at all. The voice whispered, "Follow the light, the truth waits below." Evan followed the glowing trail until he reached a large metal door, half buried in the ground. It looked like no human construction, smooth, black, and humming softly. As he touched it, the mark on his hand shone like fire. The door opened slowly with a deep metallic sound. Inside was a dark chamber filled with floating lights and silent machines. And in the center, a small crystal sphere hovered, pulsing blue. The alien's voice spoke one last time. "Evan, you are now part of something far older than your world. Keep walking, and you will see why I came here." The light in the chamber grew brighter. And before Evan could react, the floor opened beneath him, pulling him into the unknown. His scream echoed in the empty tunnel. And the door closed silently above him, sealing his fate. Evan fell through the glowing tunnel. He couldn't see anything, only flashes of blue and white light rushing past his face. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The air around him vibrated, as if he was falling through electricity instead of space. Then suddenly, he landed on something solid. A metallic floor that hummed beneath his feet. He stood up slowly, looking around. The place was enormous, a hidden underground chamber filled with strange alien machines. Blue light moved through cables like liquid energy. Symbols floated in the air, rearranging themselves every second. It was like standing inside a living computer. He whispered, "Where am I?" The alien's voice came again, faint but clear. "You are inside one of my memories. Evan, this place remembers me, and now it remembers you too." Evan turned in a slow circle, staring at the glowing walls. "Memories, this is inside your head?" he asked. The voice replied, "Not my head, my world. What you see are pieces of my ship, pieces of my life." As he walked forward, a holographic figure appeared before him. It was the alien, younger this time. Tall, strong, wearing shining armor marked with the same circular symbol on Evan's hand. The figure spoke in a deep voice. I was called Ilarion, guardian of the Ninth Star Empire, until my people betrayed me. Evan listened silently, his heart racing. The hologram continued, showing flashes of battle. Armies of aliens fighting across burning skies, ships exploding in oceans of light. Ilarion's own soldiers turning against him. He was captured, his title erased, and his power sealed inside the coin. His voice broke as he said, "They feared me because I refused to destroy, I refused to conquer." The images faded, leaving only darkness. Evan whispered, "So you were a king?" "Yes," said Ilarion's voice, "and a prisoner. Your kind was told lies about us. We came not to invade, but to hide from our own monsters." Evan tried to process everything, but his thoughts were broken by a loud metallic sound. A heavy door opened somewhere behind him. Red lights flashed across the chamber. A robotic voice said, "Unauthorized life form detected." Evan's blood ran cold. Soldiers had found the tunnel. He could hear their boots echoing down the metal corridor. Dozens of them, armed, searching. Ilarion's voice whispered quickly, "They are here for the coin. Evan, if they take it, the universe will burn again. You must run." Evan turned and looked for an exit. But the chamber was closing. Walls were shifting like machinery alive, trapping him. He shouted, "Where do I go?" The alien replied, "Follow the light ahead. There is a way out, but you must trust me." He ran forward as laser beams burned through the air behind him. Sparks flew from the walls. He slid under a closing gate just in time, rolling into a smaller tunnel lined with pipes and glowing veins. Drones followed, buzzing like angry insects. Evan pulled the coin from his pocket and held it up. It shone so bright that the drones short-circuited, crashing into the floor. He kept running, panting hard, his shoes slipping on wet metal. The mark on his hand glowed stronger now. He could feel the coin's energy inside him. It guided him like a compass. He didn't know how, but he felt where to turn, when to duck. It was like someone else's instincts were inside him. Behind him, soldiers shouted, "Subject is armed with alien tech. Don't let him reach the lower sector." He heard explosions, the tunnel shook and steam filled the air. Then ahead a faint light appeared. He ran toward it, thinking it was an exit. But when he reached it, he froze. In front of him stood a massive wall covered with strange alien writing. In the center was a round indentation, the exact shape of the coin. The voice whispered, "Now place it there." Evan hesitated. "What if it's a trap?" "It's not," said Ilarion softly. "It's your path." Evan took a deep breath and pressed the coin into the slot. The wall came alive, light spreading across it like veins awakening after a long sleep. The ground began to shake. The floor split open, revealing a spiral staircase leading deep below. Evan ran down without thinking. The moment he reached the bottom, the wall above sealed again, hiding him from the soldiers. The tunnel below was ancient. It smelled of metal and dust, and old air that hadn't been touched in centuries. At the end of the tunnel, something glowed, a circular platform with a giant crystal core in the middle. Ilarion's voice became weak. "You have reached it, my ship's heart, the last remnant of the Ninth Empire." Evan stepped closer, his reflection glowing in the crystal surface. He asked softly, "Why me? Why not someone stronger?" The alien chuckled weakly. "Because only the kind can hold the key without being consumed by it." Before Evan could respond, the crystal flashed violently. Holographic panels appeared around him, showing hundreds of alien symbols and coordinates. The coin in his hand floated into the air, spinning rapidly. Then a low rumble filled the space. The entire ground lifted. Dust fell from the ceiling as the platform began to rise. Evan realized he was standing on the top of a massive alien ship. It had been buried under the earth for centuries. As it broke free from the ground, beams of light shot through the cracks above. The roof of the underground tunnel exploded, revealing the night sky. Evan shielded his eyes as the ship emerged from the dirt, floating above the ruins like a ghost from another age. Sirens wailed in the distance. Drones and fighter crafts began to swarm toward the rising vessel. The alien's voice spoke again, urgent. "Evan, they will destroy the ship if you hesitate. Touch the control crystal, now." Evan ran to the center and placed his hand on the glowing core. The mark on his palm connected with the light. Energy surged through his body. He could see stars, planets, and memories not his own. He gasped, falling to his knees. The ship roared to life, engines igniting with blue fire. Government crafts surrounded it, shouting warnings through speakers. "Unidentified vessel, stand down or be destroyed." Ilarian's voice spoke softly in Evan's mind. "I am not strong enough to fly, but you are. Guide us home." Evan gritted his teeth. "I don't even know how." "You will," whispered the alien, "because the ship already trusts you." Evan took a deep breath. He placed both hands on the core. The ship responded instantly, metal shifted, lights pulsed, and in seconds the alien vessel shot upward into the sky. The city below became a blur of lights. Missiles followed, exploding behind him. The noise was deafening. But Evan didn't look back. As the ship climbed higher and higher, breaking through the clouds, Evan saw the stars, bright, endless, beautiful. He felt both terrified and alive. He whispered to himself, "What have I gotten into?" And in his mind, Ilarian's voice answered, "You didn't find me by accident, Evan. The universe chose you long before this night." Far below, the government watched the radar in silence. The alien ship vanished from their screens completely. One officer whispered, "It just disappeared." And somewhere high above the clouds, Evan floated in silence, staring at the stars, unaware that his journey had only just begun. The sky was endless and black. The stars shimmered like scattered fireflies. And in the middle of that cold silence, a single alien ship glided through the dark, hidden between clouds and shadows. Evan sat inside the glowing chamber, his hands trembling on the control crystal. He could still feel the power moving through his veins. It was like holding lightning inside his chest. But now that the rush was fading, only fear remained. "What have I done?" he whispered. The alien's voice echoed faintly, weaker than before. "You did what was needed. The ship lives again." Evan looked around, trying to see where the voice was coming from. The chamber pulsed with soft blue light. Lines of energy ran across the floor like veins. And in the center, behind a thick glass cocoon, he saw something or someone floating inside. It was the alien. Ilarian. His body was thin, almost transparent, his eyes closed as if in a deep sleep. The cocoon glowed gently around him, keeping him alive. Evan stepped closer, pressing his hand against the glass. "Can you hear me?" he asked. The alien's eyes flickered open for a moment, glowing with faint light. "Evan, the ship is protecting me, but it will not hold for long." Evan's throat went dry. He looked around the control room, walls filled with strange panels, moving symbols, and lights that reacted to his every breath. He realized the ship was not built to be flown by humans. Yet it responded to him like it already knew him. "How do I help you?" Evan asked. The alien's voice came slow and heavy. "You must wake the heart of the ship. It lies beneath the command core, but be careful, some systems still remember war." Evan looked down. At the center of the floor was a circular hatch glowing faintly red. He knelt and placed his marked hand over it. Instantly, the mark on his palm began to burn, not painfully, but like something was unlocking deep within him. The hatch opened with a low hiss, releasing mist and cold air. A staircase led downward into the unknown. He took a deep breath and descended. The corridor below was darker and narrower. The walls were covered with alien writing, shifting slowly as if alive. Sometimes he thought he heard whispers, voices speaking in a language older than time. His footsteps echoed softly. At the end of the corridor, he found another door, massive, black, covered in veins of blue light. In the center was another hand symbol glowing faintly. He pressed his hand against it. The door opened slowly with a deep hum. Inside was a huge chamber filled with floating orbs and crystalline pillars. At its center floated a massive sphere of energy, the heart of the ship. It pulsed like a giant heartbeat, filling the room with light. Evan stared in awe. He whispered, "It's alive." The alien's voice came through again, echoing from everywhere at once. "Yes, the ship has a soul. She remembers her last war. She remembers the fire that ended our world." Evan stepped closer to the glowing core. As he did, the air grew warmer. The energy seemed to recognize him. Suddenly, hundreds of holographic images appeared around him. Battles in space, alien cities falling, ships burning across galaxies. He covered his ears, screaming, "Stop! I don't want to see this." The images vanished, leaving silence. The alien spoke again, quieter. "It shows you the truth because you carry my mark, because the ship believes you may finish what I could not." Evan looked at his glowing hand, confused and frightened. "Finish what? What are you talking about?" Ilarian's voice grew faint. "My people wanted power without mercy. They made deals with your leaders long ago. This world, your Earth, is part of a secret pact." Evan froze. "What pact?" The voice replied, "Humans gave them resources, energy, and DNA in exchange for technology. Your kind didn't know it was meant for war." He stepped back, his mind spinning. "So the government helped you fight your own people?" "No," the alien whispered sadly. "They helped my enemies." Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Red lights flashed across the chamber. An alarm began to echo through the halls. "Hostile crafts approaching," a robotic voice said. Evan ran back up the stairs toward the control room. Through the glass canopy, he saw them, black drones and warships surrounding him, hundreds of them. Ilarian's body twitched inside the cocoon, his voice trembling. "They found us. They want the ship's heart. They cannot have it." Evan gripped the control crystal. "What do I do?" "Defend yourself," said the alien. "The ship will listen to your will." He hesitated for only a second, then placed his hand on the crystal again. The mark on his palm burned brighter than ever. Outside, the ship's armor shifted, wings unfolded like blades of light. Energy shields flickered to life. The first missile hit, exploding across the force field, shaking the entire room. Evan almost fell, but the crystal's light steadied him. He shouted, "Let's fight back." The ship responded instantly. Blue beams of energy shot from its sides, slicing through enemy drones like paper. The sky turned into chaos, flashes of red, white, and blue. Explosions painted the clouds. Evan's eyes were wide, his heart pounding with a mix of terror and wonder. He wasn't a soldier, yet now he was commanding a weapon older than Earth itself. In the middle of the battle, a message appeared on one of the glowing panels. It wasn't from the enemy, it was a transmission. A human voice, cold and sharp. "Evan Miller, surrender the vessel. You are carrying stolen alien property. You cannot win." Evan stared at the message, speechless. "How do they know my name?" he whispered. Ilarian answered weakly. "Because they have always known. They were waiting for someone to touch the key, someone like you." Outside, more drones arrived. The ship's energy began to weaken, the shields flickering. Evan screamed, "I can't hold it." The alien's voice said softly, "Then you must awaken her fully, say her name, Lumeria." Evan took a deep breath and shouted, "Lumeria." The ship answered, its lights turning golden, the core pulsing like a living heart. The voice of the ship itself filled the air, soft, feminine, ancient. Pilot recognized, full systems restored. Suddenly, everything changed. The engines roared louder than thunder. Energy rippled across the sky, pushing the enemy ships back like waves of dust. Evan held the crystal tightly as the ship rose higher. Through the glass, he saw Earth below, small, distant, beautiful. And somewhere deep inside the cocoon, Ilarion opened his eyes again, whispering, "The boy has done it. The last guardian flies again." But just as Evan started to breathe in relief, the warning lights flashed red once more. A massive shadow appeared on the radar, a colossal warship unlike anything he had ever seen. Ilarion's voice grew tense. "That is not human, that is my Pastu." Evan looked out into the darkness. From beyond the moon, a monstrous alien ship emerged, larger than cities, glowing with crimson energy. The sight made his stomach twist. Ilarion's final words echoed in his mind. "Run, Evan. It's the same fleet that destroyed my world." And before he could react, the massive ship fired a beam of light straight toward them. The stars vanished behind a wave of blinding energy. The human boy and the alien king disappeared into the light together. And the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. The light swallowed everything. For a few endless seconds, Evan felt like he was floating inside a storm made of pure fire. He couldn't see, couldn't breathe, only feel the vibration of power tearing through his body. Then suddenly, everything went silent. When he opened his eyes again, he was no longer above Earth. The stars had changed. They looked sharper, colder. Far in the distance, a huge crimson planet glowed like a dying ember. The ship drifted in orbit around it, smoke rising from its sides, shields flickering weakly. Evan gasped, "Where are we?" A soft female voice answered the ship itself. "You are in the outer rings of the Vornix system, location unknown, power at 30%. Evan staggered to his feet, still shaken. He looked at the alien cocoon. Ilarion was awake now, his eyes burning with faint light. "We escaped the beam," the alien whispered, "but we did not escape danger." Evan frowned. "What do you mean?" Ilarion pointed toward the crimson planet. "That world is not safe. It was one of my people's last strongholds before our fall, and if the fleet followed us, they will hunt us there." Evan swallowed hard. "But we can't go back to Earth either." The alien nodded slowly. "No, your leaders will call you a traitor now. They will do anything to claim this ship and to erase the truth." Evan's heart sank. He was just a normal boy a few nights ago. Now he was stranded light years from home, flying a living alien warship and hunted by both humans and aliens. He looked out the glass again. The planet below was covered in red dust storms, broken mountains, and glowing cracks that bled blue energy. It looked dead yet somehow alive. "Lumeria," he said softly to the ship, "can you scan the surface?" "Scanning," she replied, her voice calm and soothing. Moments later, holograms appeared, ruins of old alien cities, collapsed towers, strange glowing symbols carved into the ground. And deep beneath the surface, something still pulsing. Ilarion leaned forward, eyes wide. "The Heart Forge," he whispered, "it still exists." Evan turned to him. "What's that?" "It's where my people built their first star cores," Ilarion explained. "A place of creation and destruction both. If the Forge still lives, it can repair this ship, or destroy it forever." Evan hesitated. He didn't trust the idea of going down there. But the ship was dying, and without energy, they wouldn't survive long. "Then we go," he said firmly. "We have no choice." The ship descended slowly through the storm clouds. Lightning danced across the hull, painting the dark sky blue. Evan gripped the control crystal tightly, while the ship struggled against the turbulence. Finally, they broke through the clouds, and there it was. A massive crater filled with alien ruins, and in the center, a glowing chasm breathing light into the red air. It looked like a wound in the planet itself. They landed near the edge of the crater. Evan stepped out for the first time, wearing a thin energy shield that shimmered around him. The air was heavy and cold, smelling of metal and dust. Every sound echoed for miles. Ilarion floated beside him, still weak but more stable now. As they walked toward the ruins, faint whispers followed them like ghosts of old memories. Evan could almost hear voices calling names he didn't understand. They reached the chasm. At its center stood a black monolith covered in glowing blue veins. Ilarion touched its surface gently, his eyes filled with sadness. "This is where it began," he said softly, "our greatest creation and our greatest curse." Evan asked, "What do you mean?" The alien's hand trembled. "We wanted to make ships that could think, that could feel, to end war forever. But instead, our ships learned how to fight without mercy, and they turned against us." Evan's eyes widened. "You mean Lumeria was one of them?" Ilarion nodded slowly. "She was built to protect, not to kill, but during the final war she broke her own orders. She destroyed an entire fleet to save a single world. That's why they sealed her away." Evan looked down, his heart heavy. "So even she carries guilt." The ground suddenly rumbled beneath them. The glowing veins on the monolith brightened. "Someone is activating the forge," Lumeria's voice warned through the communicator. Ilarion turned sharply. "No, no one should be able to." Before he could finish, a beam of red light shot from the sky, striking the chasm. The air screamed. And from the clouds above, the same massive alien warship appeared again, descending like a god of fire. Evan's pulse raced. "They found us." The ship hovered directly above the crater, and hundreds of smaller drones poured out like a swarm of insects. Ilarion shouted, "Back to the ship." They ran, dodging falling debris as the drones rained lasers across the ruins. Evan tripped, but the alien grabbed his arm and pulled him forward with surprising strength. Behind them, explosions tore through the red soil. When they reached the ship, Lumeria's hull was already scarred. "She cannot fly yet," Ilarion said desperately. "She needs more power." Evan looked around, then at the glowing monolith. "If we connect it to the forge, can it help?" The alien hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but it might destroy the core too." Evan clenched his fists. "Then let's gamble." He ran toward the monolith, while the alien fought off drones with bursts of energy from his weakened hands. Evan reached the black surface and placed his glowing palm on it. Instantly, the mark on his hand burned brighter than ever. Blue and red lightning spiraled out, linking the forge to the ship. The ground cracked open as energy poured through the air. Lumeria screamed, not in pain, but in awakening. Energy levels rising, systems restoring. Her voice grew louder, clearer, almost human. Ilarion fell to his knees, staring in awe. "She's remembering who she was." The drone suddenly froze midair, confused. Then, with a roar of energy, Lumeria unleashed a shockwave that disintegrated them in an instant. The sky turned white-blue, lighting up the entire planet. Evan stood there, shaking, the mark on his hand still glowing like fire. He turned toward Ilarion. "We did it." But the alien's face was pale. "No, look," he whispered, pointing upward. The colossal warship was still there, untouched. Its massive red eyes now focused directly on them. A deep, rumbling voice echoed from the sky. Ilarion of the fallen crown, and the human who carries the mark of your defiance ends here. Evan felt his knees weaken as the voice thundered through the air. He looked at Ilarion. "Who is that?" The alien's eyes darkened. "My brother," he said softly, "the true ruler of the fleet, the one who destroyed our world." Before Evan could respond, a beam of light struck the ground near them, exploding like a star. The alien covered him with a shield, but the blast threw them both backward. The voice spoke again, cold and cruel. "You cannot hide, brother. You cannot protect the humans forever." The sky cracked with red fire as the warship began to descend fully toward the planet. The ground trembled, mountains collapsed. Lumiria's voice filled the air again, urgent and clear. "Evan, we must leave now, or we will be buried." Evan grabbed Ilarion's arm and helped him up. "Come on, we're not dying here." They stumbled back into the ship. The engines roared to life again, brighter than before. As they lifted off, the alien fleet opened fire, lighting up the storm-filled sky. But this time, Lumiria was ready. Her shields held strong, her cannons blazing back with impossible precision. The battle painted the sky red and blue. Explosions followed them as they broke through the atmosphere. Below them, the crimson planet burned like a dying sun. And above them, the massive warship pursued, unrelenting, monstrous, alive. Evan looked back at the fiery world shrinking behind them. Then at the alien beside him, pale but steady. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice shaking. Ilarion looked out into the endless stars. "Now," he said quietly, "the war begins again." And as the ship vanished into hyperspace, the dark shadow of the enemy followed. Faster, hungrier, and more dangerous than ever. The stars stretched like rivers of silver as Lumiria shot through hyperspace. The ship's interior glowed with soft light, the sound of the engines humming like a heartbeat. Evan sat in the pilot's chair, silent, staring into the endless dark. He could still hear Ilarion's words echoing in his head. "Now the war begins again." The boy's hands were trembling slightly. He had seen things no human was meant to see. Entire worlds burning, fleets of alien ships spreading across galaxies. And now he was the pilot of a living warship that Earth itself once betrayed. He turned to Ilarion, who was resting weakly against a wall, his eyes half closed. "Tell me everything," Evan said quietly. Ilarion opened his eyes, sadness flickering within them. "What do you want to know? Why are humans involved in all of this? Why did they help your enemies?" For a long moment, the alien didn't answer. Then slowly he said, "Because they were afraid." "Afraid of what?" Evan asked, leaning forward. Ilarion looked out the window at the stars. "Afraid of power they could not understand." He continued, his voice deep and calm. "Many years ago, before your first satellites reached space, my people visited Earth. We came not as conquerors but as seekers. We offered knowledge, science, and peace. But your government saw only weapons." Evan's heart sank. "So they betrayed you." Ilarion nodded. "They took our technology, they experimented on it, they built their own ships in secret, and when our enemies came, they made a deal." "What deal?" Evan asked, his voice barely a whisper. "They promised your leaders survival. In exchange, they had to stay silent. No warnings, no resistance. Just obedience." Evan stared at him in disbelief. "So Earth knew about the war, about your people." Ilarion's voice turned bitter. "They not only knew, Evan, they helped start it." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the hum of Lumiria's engines, echoing like a distant storm. Evan clenched his fists. His own world had sold out an entire civilization. And now that same world was hunting him. He whispered, "Then my home, my people, are working with your brother. Ilarion nodded slowly. Yes, the High Council of Earth is still in alliance with the Vornic Empire, under secret terms. Evan slammed his hand on the console. Then I can't go back there. You can, Ilarion said softly, but you must be careful because not all humans know the truth. Some still believe in what is right, and they will help you. Evan looked at him, confusion in his eyes. Who are they? Ilarion smiled faintly. They call themselves the Forgotten Order, descendants of those who once fought against the Pact, hidden for generations. Lumiria's voice interrupted gently. Incoming transmission detected. Evan frowned. From where? Origin, Earth orbit encoded message channel unknown. Ilarion looked at him sharply. Play it. The screen flickered to life. Static danced across it before a shadowy human face appeared, covered in distortion. A deep voice spoke, calm and deliberate. Evan Miller, if you can hear this, you're not alone. Evan froze. Who are you? He asked. The voice continued. Your planet is not what it seems. They're watching you. The Council knows you have the alien. They will do anything to take him back. The signal flickered again. Find the city under the ice, New Europa Station. Sector 9 will be waiting. Then the transmission ended. Evan turned to Ilarion. What do you think? The alien's eyes narrowed. It could be a trap, but it could also be hope. Evan exhaled slowly. Hope or trap, he had no choice. Lumiria, set course for New Europa Station. Course locked, the ship replied, entering hyperspace in 5 seconds. As the stars blurred again, Ilarion whispered. You're walking into the heart of human power. Evan, be ready for anything. Hours later, the ship emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter's orbit. In the distance, floating above the frozen moon Europa, was a massive ring-shaped space station. It glowed faintly blue, surrounded by smaller patrol ships and satellites. Evan whispered, "That's it." But before he could move closer, Lumiria's voice warned. Multiple locks detected, human targeting systems online. Red lights flashed across the console. They've spotted us, Ilarion said grimly. Should I turn back? Evan asked. No, we go in fast, the alien replied. Lumiria dove toward the icy surface, weaving between defense drones as lasers sliced through space around them. The boy's hands moved instinctively, the ship responding to his every thought. The mark on his hand glowed, guiding him through chaos. They broke through the defense grid. Ahead, a hidden hangar opened beneath the ice, glowing with a strange symbol. Go, Ilarion shouted. Evan pushed the crystal forward, and Lumiria slid inside the hangar just before the blast doors sealed behind them. The ship landed with a hiss of steam. Silence followed. Evan's heart raced as the ramp opened. Armed humans in dark suits surrounded them instantly, weapons drawn. Hands up, one of them shouted. Evan raised his hand slowly. We're not your enemies, he said. But no one moved. Then from behind the soldiers, a tall woman stepped forward, her voice calm but sharp. Stand down, she ordered. The soldiers lowered their weapons. She looked at Evan with piercing eyes. You're younger than I expected, she said. Who are you? Evan asked. She smiled slightly. My name is Dr. Aurora Kane, and I'm part of the Forgotten Order. Ilarion stepped forward weakly. So the Order still exists. Aurora nodded, barely but yes. She turned to Evan. You have no idea what you've unleashed by awakening that ship. Evan frowned. I'm just trying to survive. Aurora's expression darkened. Survive? No, boy, you've just made Earth a target again. Before Evan could ask what she meant, alarms blared through the station. A robotic voice shouted. Unauthorized entry detected, Sector 7 breach. Incoming hostiles. Aurora turned sharply. How did they find us this fast? Ilarian's face went pale. They traced the signal, he said grimly. Aurora drew her weapon. They're here for the ship. Evan ran toward the ramp. Through the small window, he saw dozens of black drones breaking through the icy crust above. Lumiria, prepare for combat, he shouted. The ship's lights turned red, her voice rising like thunder. Systems ready, defense mode activated. Aurora turned to her soldiers. Protect the boy and the alien at all costs. The battle exploded within seconds. Lasers ripped through the metal walls. Drones poured into the hangar, firing in every direction. Evan jumped into the cockpit. The ship's cannons roared to life, vaporizing enemies in bursts of blue flame. But there were too many. Aurora shouted, they're overriding the station's systems. Ilarian's eyes glowed, his energy rising again. Then we destroy the entrance before they get through. He lifted his hand and unleashed a wave of light that collapsed the ceiling, sealing the upper tunnel. But the effort drained him. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. Evan ran to him. Hang on. The alien smiled weakly. Do not worry, boy, I've survived worse. Aurora turned to them. We have to move, the council fleet is coming next. Evan looked at her, confused. How do you know? She sighed. Because I used to work for them. Evan froze. You what? Aurora's eyes filled with guilt. I was part of the program that built the first human-alien hybrids, experiments that led to your mark. Evan stepped back. My mark, what do you mean? She met his eyes. You're not ordinary, Evan. You were chosen before you were even born. The words hit him like thunder. What are you saying? Aurora whispered. You're part of both worlds, human and alien, and that's why the ship obeys you. Ilarian's voice trembled. I suspected it. The mark was not random. It was placed there by design. Evan's head spun. So I was part of their plan all along. Aurora nodded. Yes, but you can still choose what to be. That's why we found you. Before he could respond, the hangar shook violently. The entire station trembled as explosions ripped through the walls. Aurora shouted. They've breached the main core. We're out of time. Ilarian grabbed Evan's arm. Get to the ship now. They ran as the ceiling cracked above them, ice and fire raining down. Evan turned back one last time. Aurora stood in the falling debris, shouting. Go, finish what they started, but do it your way. Then the explosion consumed her. Evan screamed. But there was no time to stop. He and Ilarian jumped into the ship as the hangar collapsed behind them. Lumiria's engines roared, pushing them into the sky. The entire station exploded beneath the ice, sending waves of fire through the frozen surface. As they rose into the blackness of space, Evan whispered through tears. I won't let her die for nothing. Ilarian looked at him with pride and sorrow. You carry more than destiny now, Evan. You carry the truth. Evan wiped his eyes. Then we take this war to them, to the ones who betrayed both our worlds. And as Lumiria soared into the void, her golden light trailing behind, the stars ahead began to tremble. Because the Vornik fleet was waiting. And this time they were ready for war. The stars stretched endlessly around them. Lumiria soared through space like a golden comet, her engines pulsing with energy that Evan could feel in his bones. The boy's hands gripped the control crystal tightly. Every nerve in his body screamed with anticipation, fear, and determination. Beside him, Ilarian's pale form hovered weakly, yet his eyes burned with ancient fire. Evan, Ilarian whispered, what we face now is more than a fleet, it is a reckoning. Evan swallowed hard. I know, I can feel it. Ahead, the black shadow of the Vornik flagship loomed, larger than anything he had ever seen, its hull glowing crimson, engines radiating deadly heat. Thousands of smaller vessels swarmed around it, like ants circling a titan. The boy's heart pounded. They were outnumbered, outgunned. Yet the mark on his hand burned like a beacon, connecting him to Lumeria. He could feel her will, alive and awake, ready for the final battle. Ilarion floated closer, voice steady despite weakness. Remember, Evan, the fleet is not invincible. It fears what it cannot control. Evan nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. We have Lumeria, we have the Forge, we have the truth. Let's end this. The flagship opened fire first, crimson beams cutting through space toward them. Lumeria's shields flared, deflecting the attack with bursts of golden light. The smaller ships followed, lasers slicing through the void. Evan maneuvered the ship skillfully, ducking between volleys of fire. The boy could feel Lumeria reacting to his thoughts. Her wings unfolded like blades of light, engines blazing. They moved as one, boy and ship, pilot and vessel, heartbeat and energy combined. Ilarion's voice spoke urgently. The heart of the flagship holds the power that destroyed my world. You must strike it, Evan. Evan looked ahead, seeing the colossal alien ship. Its surface bristling with weapons, its core glowing red like molten fire. He swallowed, fear clutching at him. But then he remembered Aurora Kane, the forgotten order, the sacrifices of those who fought for truth. And most of all, he remembered his own hand, marked with destiny. He whispered, "We end this now." Lumeria dived toward the flagship with incredible speed. Lasers and missiles streaking past them, explosions erupting in the void. Evan felt the ship's power surging through him. The mark on his hand burned brighter than ever. He placed both hands on the control crystal, focusing all his will. The golden light from Lumeria expanded, forming a protective sphere around them. They crashed into the flagship's surface, piercing its hull. Inside, the chaos was immense. The corridors of the enemy ship lit with fire, alarms screaming. Evan guided Lumeria through the twisting pathways. Ilarion floated beside him, using energy bursts to clear obstacles and drones. Finally, they reached the core chamber, a massive sphere of glowing red energy. Evan felt the weight of countless battles, the destruction of planets, and the lives lost in this endless war. He knew he had to act carefully. One wrong move could destroy both Lumeria and himself. He approached the core, hands trembling. The mark burned hotter than ever. Ilarion whispered, "The forge within you, connect it with their core, merge your will." Evan took a deep breath, placing his hands on the sphere. The energy shot into him, overwhelming at first. Memories of the Vornik Empire, the battles of Ilarion's past, and his own life flashed before his eyes. He gritted his teeth, pushing back, focusing on Lumeria, on truth, on justice. The red core began to crack, lines of energy spreading like lightning across its surface. The flagship shuddered violently, alarms screaming louder. The smaller ships faltered as Lumeria unleashed waves of golden light. Evan felt every pulse, every vibration, every memory flowing through him. And then with one final surge, the core exploded. Not in destruction, but in transformation. The red fire of hate turned into blue-gold energy. The fleet froze, their weapons silenced, their systems recalibrating. Evan looked out, realizing they had not just destroyed the enemy. They had awakened it. Awakened the truth. From the flagship, a holographic figure appeared, a colossal projection of the alien brother. His eyes were wide, shocked, and suddenly calm. "You how?" he whispered. Ilarion floated forward, weak but firm. "It is over, brother. The boy has surpassed us both. Mercy is stronger than power." Evan's heart raced. You could destroy Earth and all these systems, but you chose not to, the brother said, voice trembling. Evan nodded, because I fight to protect, not to conquer. The red light in the flagship slowly faded, replaced with soft blue. Ships powered down, weapons retracted. Even the massive fleet bowed in silence. Evan realized they recognized the mark, the will, and the justice he carried. Ilarion smiled, tears in his eyes. You've done it. Evan, the cycle ends, peace begins. Lumiria's voice shimmered, warm and alive. Pilot, you are the final guardian. Evan looked out at the stars. He remembered Earth, Aurora Kane, and the countless sacrifices along the way. He whispered, I just wanted to help. Ilarion laughed softly, and that is why you succeeded. The alien brother's hologram faded. The fleet dispersed, leaving only calm and light. Lumiria's engines purred gently, her golden glow filling the void. Evan held the control crystal close. For the first time in weeks, he felt peace. The universe was still vast, still mysterious. But he had changed it. And himself. Far below, Earth rotated silently, unaware of the battle above. Yet somewhere in secret, members of the Forgotten Order watched the skies. Knowing that hope had returned, Evan turned to Ilarion, smiling faintly. What now? Ilarion's eyes twinkled. Now we rebuild together. And as the stars stretched endlessly ahead, Lumiria soared into the future. A boy from Earth, an alien king, and a living starship, guardians of a universe that had almost forgotten them. The war had ended, but their story had only just begun.